June 1942, Washington District of Columbia, Office of Strategic Services, RS, Director William J. Donovan. A door closes. Files pass hand to hand. A question hangs in the air. What truly makes a person cross the line? Money, fear, ego, cause. The camera drifts across a desk, scarred by cigarette burns and coffee rings. Names stamped on onion skin paper. Men and women behind those names. Choices that will cost lives. Two rivals take shape. The OSS. Young, improvisational, built by William J. Donovan to fuse brains and audacity. The Abwehr. Older, formal, built inside the German armed forces and led by Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, a man of masks. Same war, same board, different game. Across the Atlantic, a warning signal. The Duquesne spy ring rolls up in 1941 after the FBI and a controlled double agent, William G. Siebold, record meeting after meeting in New York. The Abwehr loses 33 agents in one sweep. Not OSS work, but the American side studies it closely. Lesson 1. Control your agents or you will lose them all. Lesson 2. Belief beats bribery over time. Now cut to June 13, 1942. Operation Pastorius hits the beaches of Long Island and Florida. 8 Abwehr saboteurs land with explosives, money, and orders. Within days, George John Dasch walks into the FBI and talks. He betrays the mission that trained him. Why? He never believed in the cause. He never felt owned. The Abwehr paid him, threatened him, directed him. It did not anchor him. The lever slipped. Back in Washington, Donovan watches and decides that recruitment cannot be a blunt instrument. It must be a mirror. Find what a person wants to see in that mirror and help them become it. Patriot, avenger, builder, professional, idealist. The OSS turns the pitch from fear to identity. Not you will do this. Instead, you are the kind of person who can do this. That frame carries through training, tradecraft, and field work. It holds under stress because it belongs to the agent, not to the handler. The Abwehr often works a different angle. The velvet glove, iron fist, cash in envelopes, promises of protection for a wife or a mother, quiet threats about what happens if a courier does not show. It is fast. It is efficient. It looks like control. Until the first police knock on a door. Until the first British or American officer offers safety and a second story to live by. Then money and fear begin to leak away. Listen in Bern. Alan W. Dulles opens an OSS office in 1942. The room smells of pipe smoke and ink. A German foreign ministry officer named Fritz Kolbe arrives. He brings a diplomatic pouch in his memory and 2 words in his heart. Never again. He hates the regime. He wants to act. He does not need cash. He needs a channel. Dulles gives him one in the code name George Wood. Kolbe moves because the mirror matches the man. He becomes the person he tells himself he is. A traitor to the regime, a patriot to a different Germany. The Abwehr cannot stop that because it cannot see it. Identity beats fear. Cut to Rome and the Italian front. OSS Morale Operations runs leaflets, rumors, and black radio. They recruit from German prisoners of war, not by beating them, by listening, by using letters from home, by handing them a role in a story that says, you can reduce suffering if you help us now. Some refuse, some accept. Those who accept hold because the new role fits. They are not bought, they are converted. A handler writes in a small notebook, never threaten unless you will carry it out. Never pay for something you could get for belief. Never push a man where he thinks only you are standing. Always leave him thinking he is standing there by himself. The OSS turns that notebook into process, profiles, screening, observation under stress, selection, built on how a person solves problems, handles failure, and reads a room. Not perfect, often messy, but rooted in human nature, not just human need. A different notebook sits in a Berlin office, sums and code names, reports time to trains and tides, excellent at logistics, weaker at souls. The Abwehr is pulled apart by rival German services, by SS pressure, and by internal doubt at the top. Canaris dislikes the regime he serves. Field officers sense it. Agents sense it. When your house shakes, your guests look for another place to sleep. The camera returns to the desk in Washington. On it lies a sheet labeled Assessment. On it lie questions about motives, pressure points, and pride. In the margin, a hand has written one word twice. Why? Why will he do this? Why will he keep doing this after the first fear has passed? The OSS builds systems to answer that. The Abwehr often assumes the first answer will be enough. It is not. This is the hinge. Not gadgets, not passwords, not even money. The hinge is the story a recruit tells himself when the knock comes at midnight. If that story belongs to him, he holds. If it belongs to you, he runs. September 1943. Washington District of Columbia. ASS. Assessment Staff. Chief Psychologist Henry A. Murray. October 1943. Bethesda, Maryland. OSS Training. At the Congressional Country Club. Director William J. Donovan. A bare room with a two-way mirror. A table. A rope. A box of tools. A timed problem with no clear solution. The candidate has 10 minutes. He chooses. He fails. He adapts. He tries again. Behind the glass, psychologists mark what matters. Initiative, social insight, tolerance for stress. Not a perfect measure. Better than guesswork. The OSS calls it the assessment of men. Donald W. McKinnon helps run it. Henry A. Murray shapes it. The product is a profile that asks not can he shoot, but can he learn, and can he hold when alone. Training follows the same line. Area B in the Catoctin Mountains. The Congressional Country Club turned into an obstacle course and a blackboard. Tradecraft on the fairways. Dead drops in the locker rooms. Radios on the range. The instructors teach a logic. Build a cover that fits the person. Use skills the person already owns. Do not force a farmer to play a banker. Do not ask a poet to fake a soldier. Make the identity close enough to breathe. William J. Donovan, the Medal of Honor soldier turned organizer, pushes for people who can improvise. He hires scholars, lawyers, linguists, mechanics, filmmakers, and athletes. He gives them missions that often have no script. He gives them permission to solve the problem at their level. The sell to a recruit is simple. You are useful. You can help win faster and bleed less. You will be trained. You will be backed. You will not be abandoned. Recruitment lines mirror that promise. The OSS reaches into refugee communities, into universities, into ethnic networks that can move across borders without noise. The pitch emphasizes meaning and skill, not just secrecy and pay. The screen filters out the reckless and the brittle. The trainers then build habits that keep a person alive. Never meet in the same place twice. Always plan the end of a conversation before the start. Carry an extra story inside your main story. Escape routes traced in your head like a prayer. In Bern, Alan W. Dulles works the same pattern with walk-ins and with targets of approach. He listens more than he talks. He lets the recruit explain his hate, his fear, his hope. He does not rush the ask. He nudges. He gives a small test and waits. A document copied. A date confirmed. A trivial memo passed without error. Trust by steps. Identity by steps. Each step binds the recruit deeper to the person he believes he already is. The OSS also borrows from British partners. London shares lessons from the double-cross system. How to handle a double agent. How to feed a controlled channel with truth cut by error. How to keep your own stories consistent across handlers. The Americans learn that turning an enemy agent is not a lightning strike. It is carpentry. Measure twice. Cut once. Sand the edges so the piece fits and does not squeak. Pay only when payment makes the join tighter. Threaten only when silence would crack the wood. There are failures. Men who look perfect on paper and then freeze in a tram stop with a folded note in the wrong pocket. Women who ace the maze and then choose the wrong safe house because the face at the door looked tired. The OSS keeps notes on the failures and feeds them back into assessment design. Change the timed tasks. Add a language drill under fatigue. Add a role play with an angry clerk. Make training feel like the field, so the field does not feel new. Then, there are the quiet wins. A courier who shrugs through a checkpoint because she knows exactly how a bored guard looks at a grocery bag. A wireless operator who shuts down for 10 minutes because he hears the hunt tone creeping into the ether. a source who stays in place for 2 years because he believes in what he is doing every single morning. These wins have a common root: recruitment tied to identity, support tied to competence, supervision tied to trust. A memo on Donovan's desk sets the rule in 7 words: build the man before you build the mission. In practice, that means long conversations, careful references, and patient courtship. It means reading a candidate's letters, not for vocabulary, but for temperament. Does he brood? Does she hold grudges? Does he boast? Does she deflect blame? The OSS treats these as operational facts, not personal gossip, because in the field, personality is a tool or a fault line. By late 1943, the organization has a pattern: spot a potential recruit through work or network, invite with a purpose framed as service, evaluate with stress that feels like life, train for flexibility and restraint, deploy with a cover that breathes, support with handlers who respect the person, not just the product. When the moment comes to turn an enemy asset, offer a future, not just a fee. Offer a way to become someone he can live with. When belief meets craft, the line holds. When fear meets money, the line frays. January 1935, Berlin, Abwehr headquarters, Chief Wilhelm Canaris. March 1940, Hamburg, Abwehr, Section the 1st, Nikolaus Ritter. The German service works the street with a different weight: a ledger first, a dossier second, cash, favors, leverage. The pitch opens with opportunity and closes with warning. The voice stays low. The eyes measure appetite and fear. Nikolaus Ritter travels under business covers before the war and during it. He meets emigrants and technicians who want to belong somewhere powerful or simply to pay their rent. He notes who drinks too much, who boasts too easily, who misses home. In New York, his pre-war contacts help seed what becomes the Duquesne Circle. In 1939, the Abwehr pressures a German-American mechanic named Hermann Lang, who once worked with an American firm on the Norden bomb site. Pride and nostalgia pull him forward. Money makes it easy. Resentment completes the set. He sketches from memory. He talks too much. It is not a doctrine of belief. It is a doctrine of appetite. William G. Siebold is different. He returns to Germany in 1939 to visit family. He is approached and threatened with exposure for a prior issue with passport formalities. Training follows at an Abwehr school near Hamburg. A new name appears on the papers: Harry Sawyer. The velvet glove, iron fist. He will serve, they say, or face prison. Back in the United States, Siebold walks into the FBI and turns on a wire. The Abwehr has bought a body and missed a mind. A slow catastrophe begins: meetings recorded, photographs taken. By June 1941, the Duquesne ring collapses in court. 33 convictions. The German files recorded payments, codes, and couriers. They did not record conviction. When squeeze met risk, the network cracked. There are glittering cases that seem to prove the German method. Ankara, 1943. A valet named Eliesa Basna photographs British documents and sells them to the German embassy. The case name becomes Cicero. The sum paid is large. The access is extraordinary. Yet even there, the spine is not loyalty but profit. When the money stumbles or the war tilts, the channel flickers. No deep story binds man to mission. The Abwehr buys product and calls it allegiance. Spain and Portugal tell the same tale with a twist. A failed chicken farmer from Barcelona, Juan Pujol Garcia, decides he will hurt the regime he hates. He approaches the British. He is ignored at first. He goes to the Abwehr in Madrid. They see opportunity and wire him money and a code name: Arabelle. He fabricates a network from timetables and guidebooks. His Abwehr handler, Karl Erich Kuelenthal, believes because the reports feel rich and the payments feel effective. When the British finally take Pujol in, he becomes GARBO under MI5. The Abwehr keeps paying. They send medals and praise. They never anchor the man because they never asked why he wanted to act. A payroll entry cannot outlast a purpose. Then there is Duško Popov. The Abwehr officer, Johann Jebsen, recruits him in 1940. Jebsen is charming, cosmopolitan, and quietly anti-regime. Popov accepts the role and steps directly into MI5's double cross. The British call him tricycle. The Abwehr sends him funds and assignments. including questions about American defenses at Pearl Harbor months before the attack. Popov delivers what London allows and lives well on German money. Again the pattern. Seduction by luxury. Maintenance by stipend. Control by threat implied. It looks like mastery until a second service offers meaning, discipline, and safety. Then the buyer discovers he never owned the asset. Inside Germany, the Abwehr tries long-game cultivation with countrymen who live abroad. Businessmen, ship agents, seamen. Many are ethnic Germans. A percentage accept for reasons that sit close to home: cash, status, fear. Another percentage accept and then drift. They skip meetings, they keep a little money and forget to send the report. Without a moral engine or a clear creed, motivation decays. The war lasts too long for short reasons. The internal stress makes it worse. Rival services tug at the same targets. The RSHA and SD compete for authority. The Gestapo watches the Abwehr. Hans Oster, a senior Abwehr officer, joins the anti-regime circles and leaks plans to foreign contacts before the war. Canaris maneuvers and stalls. Field officers absorb the tremor. Agents sense it too. When your chief doubts the house, a knock on your door at midnight will not hold you in place. In February 1944, the Abwehr is broken up and folded under the RSHA. In April 1945, Canaris is executed at Flossenburg. Cohesion dies before the war does. At the training schools, the instruction is precise and professional. Codes, microdots, clandestine photography, signals from coastal lights, routes through Lisbon, Marseille, and Barcelona. The craft is sound. The psychology is thin. Many controllers act like paymasters first and teachers second. A recruit who misses a meeting gets a threat before he gets a diagnosis. Was the street closed? Was the child ill? Was the fear simply too loud? The stick lands where a hand on the shoulder would have worked better. There are hard successes that grow from fear. The England Spiel in the Netherlands, run largely by the Sicherheitsdienst, turns captured British agents and radios into a slaughterhouse for incoming drops. Coercion and terror can produce results. But note the cost. It destroys trust across the landscape, poisons later approaches, and breeds defects the moment a safer door opens. It wins for a season and loses the harvest. A Berlin controller writes in a margin, "Bonuses must be increased." Another adds, "Sanctions must be clearer." Numbers fix the month. They do not fix the man. The Abwehr keeps the calendar full and watches the roster thin. The reason sits in plain sight. Weakness can be rented. Identity cannot. The ledger closes. The door clicks. The room is quiet. The method looks efficient on paper. It is not resilient in life. When the first true shock arrives, a purchase order is not a creed. November 1942. Bern OSS Station. Alan W. Dulles. December 1943. Ankara. German Embassy. June 1944. London. Mi-5 Double Cross. September 1944. Italy. OSS Morale Operations. Operation Sauerkraut. The test begins where methods meet pressure. Case 1. Duquesne, New York in 1941. The Abwehr builds a ring with payments, promises, and small threats. William G. Siebold walks in and wires the room. Meetings captured on glass plates and film. 33 convictions. A network bought in pieces falls apart in one push. The lesson is not about microphones, it is about motive. When the first shock hits, rented loyalty snaps. Case 2. Pastorius, Long Island and Florida in June 1942. 8 men put ashore by U-boats. Cash, explosives, schedules. George John Dasch defects to the FBI within days. He empties the plan onto a table. He is frightened. He is proud. He is unanchored. The Abwehr loses the mission because its grip is a purse string and a threat. Neither is a spine. Case 3. Bern. Fritz Kolbe, German Foreign Ministry courier, arrives at Alan W. Dulles's door in 1943. He is not Abwehr. He is German. He hates the regime. He brings papers that show rail schedules, diplomatic views, and military clues. He does not want money. He wants consequence. Dulles gives him a channel, a code name, and respect. The source holds because belief holds. The OSS wins by fitting a man's story to a mission. Case 4. Madrid to London. Juan Pujol Garcia fabricates a spy network for the Abwehr in 1941 and 1942. He wants to fight the regime. The Germans pay him and call him Arabelle. British security finally brings him inside and calls him GARBO. Reports pass to the Abwehr, thick with invented detail, salted by British timing. Money flows back, medals follow. The German service never notices that it feeds a man whose heart was never theirs. They see expense reports. They do not see identity. Case 5. Popov. The Abwehr seduces a bright, confident Yugoslav named Duško Popov in 1940. A cosmopolitan officer, Johan Jebsen, helps in the approach. Popov walks straight to MI5. He becomes tricycle. He is paid by Berlin, guided by London, and kept safe by discipline and narrative. The Abwehr believes funds equal control. They do not. The British and, by extension, their American partners demonstrate that control comes from structure, purpose, and a plan that an agent can believe in when alone. Case 6. Ankara. A valet named Eliezer Bazna photographs British documents in 1943. Cicero sells to the German embassy. Money changes hands. Pages change hands. The Abwehr calls it a triumph. Yet the core is profit. When profit falters or the buyer cannot protect the seller, the channel trembles. No creed means no staying power. Even success built on appetite corrodes under stress. Case 7. Italy. 1944. OSS Morale Operations launches Operation Sauerkraut. German prisoners of war volunteer to slip back over the lines in German uniforms and spread targeted rumors, forged orders, and demoralizing leaflets. Not torture, not a bribe only, a role offered, a way to survive and to act with a reason they can accept. The operation works because the volunteers can tell themselves a story that fits. They are saving themselves and perhaps saving comrades by pulling the war toward its end. Identity, again, does the heavy lifting. Now the clash in the tightest space, double agents. The British proof of concept is the double-cross system. Agents like Tate and Zigzag and Garbo move on British rails and deliver German money back into deception plans. The Americans study and adopt the handling rules, slow tests, credible details, a cadence of truth that buys room for important lies. When the OSS needs to turn a hostile source, it offers protection, purpose, and precision. It treats the recruit as a partner with a line into a future. When the Abwehr tries to pull back a wavering asset, it offers more cash or sharper threats. The former binds, the latter bruises, and then bleeds out. Failures speak the same language. England's Spiel in the Netherlands shows what coercion can do. Captured radios force incoming drops straight into ambush. Kill and capture and more kill. Tactical success. Strategic rot. Fear as a system devours trust and kills the soil for any later approach. When a service must terrorize to hold agents, it has already lost the center of the craft. The human cost runs through every file. A courier in Lyon who breaks under Gestapo blows and names a safe house. A wireless operator in Brittany who refuses to move after a warning and dies at a key set. A walk-in who gives everything and then sits for years after the war, with no public name and no grave honor because silence is still the rule. The psychology that recruits can also deform. Pride drifts into isolation. Idealism hardens into ruthlessness. Fear becomes a habit that outlives the mission. Contrast tightens. OSS stations that turn hostile assets tend to keep the circle small and the purpose clear. You will pass X on Y date. You will not be abandoned. Here is how you call off a meeting if the street does not feel right. Here is how you reach us if you are burned. The Abwehr often widens the circle too fast. New handlers, new demands, new deadlines. An asset senses the blur and looks for an exit. The first door offered by the FBI, MI5, or OSS becomes the future. A note from an OSS case officer pins the rule to one line. The opposite service is not the principal adversary. The recruit's doubt is. Resolve the doubt with a story that can survive bad weather. Abwehr ledgers show a counternote. Bonuses adjusted. Penalties raised. Schedules tightened. The method moves the calendar and loses the soul. The scoreboard is not neat. There are OSS misreads. There are courageous Abwehr men who act with skill under fire. But when the two systems collide over the same human being, the side that can give him a self he can live with tends to keep him. That is why turned agents stay turned. Not for fear, not for cash. For coherence. April 9, 1945. Flossenburg. A gallows in the yard. Wilhelm Canaris. The knot tightens. The ledger closes for good. The Abwehr chief, who doubted the regime he served, is executed by the regime he served. A line breaks that many fieldmen felt for years, the quiet message that belief matters more than orders. When that voice dies, the service that leaned on fear leans harder still. It does not hold. Another thread ends in shadow. Johann Jebsen, the Urbane Abwehr officer who recruited Duško Popov, disappears into SS hands in 1944. No trial in the light, no official grave. Popov keeps moving under British control and lives. His recruiter vanishes. The contrast is brutal. One man bound by cash and charm to a machine with knives. The other bound by structure and purpose to a service that can protect him when the weather turns. New York, 1941. Then Los Angeles. Then a name change and rooms with closed blinds. William G. Siebold, whose wire gutted the Duquesne ring, testifies and then fades. Years later, he lives under pressure from the same secrecy that kept him alive. It is the quiet price of turning. You do right and lose your old life anyway. No parade, no uniform, just a new name on a small mailbox and the memory of faces around a table in a federal courtroom. Madrid and Ankara leave another kind of scar. Eliesa Basna sells British secrets as Cicero in 1943. He makes a fortune on paper. Later, he learns many payments were in counterfeit pounds printed by Nazi forgers. He ends poor. No belief to sustain him. No institution to shelter him. A buyer paid him. A buyer failed him. Appetite as a method leaves bone once the meat is gone. Bern, 1943. Fritz Kolbe delivers documents to Alan W. Dulles and risks a noose every night he walks home. After the war, he is not honored in his own country. He works ordinary jobs, while the files he carried help historians point to what he did. Only much later does his name rise. That is the cost of acting for creed while living among neighbors who disagree. It is also the proof of what held him together, a story he believed about Germany and about himself. Rome and the Italian front OSS morale operations. Operation Sauerkraut sends German prisoners of war over the lines to seed rumors and sap will. Some come back alive, some do not. Those who live carry a lifetime of second looks and second guesses. Did you save lives? Did you betray comrades? The method that appeals to identity also burdens identity. You live with the choice because you made it for reasons that were yours. That is the mercy and the weight. London, 1944. Juan Pujol Garcia, GARBO, receives a German Iron Cross by radio while serving British plans. Medals, money, false names. After the war, he stages his own death, then resurfaces years later. He wanted to cut the war's throat with deception. He did. He also had to cut himself out of the life he used to know. A clean exit exists mostly in movies. Real exits limp. Within Germany, the Englandspiel shows the dark mirror. Forced radios. Ambush after ambush. Families shattered. The SD uses fear like wire. It holds shape for a season. It rusts everything it touches. After the war, that rust keeps eating through trust, through memory, through every later approach a German service might try in the same towns. The short win poisons the long ground. Handlers pay their own dues. A case officer in Bern writes that he cannot sleep after burning a source's only channel because the risk spiked. He made the right call. He saved the line and the network. He still sees the man at the cafe table, asking for one more chance to stay in. Another officer in Italy writes that he will never again promise what he cannot enforce. He kept a recruit alive by overpromising a rescue that never came. The recruit survived anyway. The officer never forgave himself for the gap between words and reality. The rule that emerges is not soft. It is steel under cloth. Use identity because it lasts. Protect dignity because it amortizes fear. Put truth into the small things so the big lie you must feed an adversary will land without wobble. Pay when pay cements a joint. Threaten only when you own the next step. If you cannot own it, do not say it. These were wartime lessons. They became peacetime doctrine because every deviation wrote its penalty in human lives. Listen to the last beat. A recruit will carry your story into rooms you will never see. If that story is cheap, he will drop it the first time a stranger offers safety. If that story is his, he will keep walking in rain that ruins paper and shoes. This is why the OSS could turn people the Abwehr could only rent. Not romance, not luck, not gadgets. A colder thing. An engineered fit between person and purpose. The camera falls to a table. A file lies open. On the inside cover, 2 words in block letters. Hold fast. It is not about silence only. It is about self. Build that, and the rest of the craft has something to stand on when the room starts shaking. October 1947, Washington District of Columbia. First CIA badge issued. May 1985, suburban Virginia. A stranger makes a quiet ask over coffee. Present day. A small table. 2 phones face down. Methods change clothes. Physics stay the same. Agencies now write mice on whiteboards. Money, ideology, coercion, ego as a quick frame for motive. The wartime split is still inside those letters. Services that lead with money and fear get motion, not depth. Services that bind ideology and ego to a role get depth that can survive the next headline. Aldrich Ames takes Soviet money in the 1980s and sells out sources. Robert Hansen does the same for years. These cases are American failures and Soviet wins because a rival service watched for grievance and need, then wrapped them in a role that flattered the man. Ugly truth. The identity lever cuts both ways. The only durable defense is to know your own people as well as you hope to know someone else's. That is the OSS lesson in reverse. Assessment never ends. Care for your agents and your officers or someone else will. Modern recruitment often starts online. It still ends in a room. A handler presents a future the recruit can live inside. A cover that breathes. A plan with exits. A set of rules that respect the person's limits. The pitch is not hardened by tech. It is hardened by credibility. When a service keeps its quiet promises, it grows a reputation that pulls the next recruit across the line before the first word is spoken. Information operations run in parallel. They are persuasion scaled. The best campaigns start from local truth, use local voices, and offer a self that feels honorable to accept. The worst shout labels and wonder why the audience turns away. In wartime Italy, the OSS learned to let a German prisoner speak to Germans about a shorter path to peace. Today that looks like a nurse persuading a village during a disease outbreak. Different stakes, same hinge. People move when the news story preserves dignity and offers agency. Counterintelligence borrows the same mirror. When the other side tries to pull one of yours, watch for shifts in pride, in debt, in status. Address them early with candor and care. Punishment alone closes mouths. It does not clean motives. The British taught this with double-cross cadence. The Americans learned it the hard way with moles. The services that hold now are the ones that treat people as long games, not quarterly metrics. Ethics keep surfacing because rot keeps returning. Every time a unit shortcuts consent or treats a source as a number, the bill arrives later with interest. England's spiel is a standing caution. So is any peacetime case where a service leaves a family stranded after using a father's access. The method that built resilience in 1943, respect, identity, precise promises, still builds resilience now. It also builds legitimacy that outlasts one director, one budget, one administration. A small table, 2 cups, no phones on the wood. The handler asks fewer questions than he wants to. He listens longer than feels natural. He offers a way to act that matches the person across from him, not a fantasy, not a threat. He explains the rules that will protect both of them. He promises only what he can enforce. He writes nothing he cannot defend to himself at 3 in the morning. The recruit nods because the story fits the spine he already has. Now, the last echo from an old room. Donovan's pencil on an index card. Build the man before you build the mission. The rival card in Berlin. Bonuses must be increased. The war ended. The experiment did not. Every service still chooses a card. Every recruit still feels which card is in play within 5 minutes of the first meeting. The door opens. Air shifts. The recruit walks out with a decision tucked inside his coat. The handler watches him go. Nothing else is said. Everything else has been decided. The rest is execution.